Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking, of course, about Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, where Vegas beats Florida 5-2 and takes Game 1, and they are looking golden in those golden jerseys of theirs in Florida. The fans were going wild. They were lighting up the scoreboard throughout the game, and they look good. But they have a couple of issues, but really, overall, for the most part, this was I don't want to say perfect game, but this is a very good game for Vegas. They did everything perfectly in my eyes, right? No real, overall flaws, issues. Defensively, they're this. Offensively, they're this. Overall, I would say everything was kicking right. Of course, teams have mistakes every once in a while, giving up things. But overall, on power play, on penalty kill, on offense, 5-on-5, everything was fine, and they won. They won this game rightfully so, and they just didn't screw it up by doing what other teams do to the Florida Panthers, which is be the better team and still mess things up because Florida just can score at will sometimes. But they keep them at bay at 2 goals, and they just pat on the scoring with the 3-goal lead. 5-2, 1-0 series lead. So, for the Cats, I gotta say, the rust was there. The rust for the Florida Panthers really was showing, and I gotta say, I know I wrote it all the way down here, but I've gotta say it here early. Eddie Olczyk was such an idiot this game. At one point, he said at the end of the first period that the Cats, he was surprised that the Cats not really showing any rust so far in this first period, and they're looking pretty good, they didn't have any time off at all. Were we watching the same game, Eddie? Because this team was having they fell a lot. They have a lot of guys falling on the ground. Kachuk fell twice. They had a lot of mishandlings of the puck, a lot of bad, like that one Reinhardt one where he was skating and tried to flip the puck, but he just flipped it literally into the Vegas player, right into him. A lot of bad whiffs, so many whiffs. Oh my goodness, this team, you can see the rust, that rhythm. The rhythm of the game also just wasn't there for the Cats, and you could contribute that to the Vegas Golden Knights just being just a really good team defensively, but at the same time, the Panthers, they just didn't have that rhythm going. They never really had that, that smoothness to their game. So, Florida, just not there, right? They just did not have that going for them at all. Bob was good. Bob was definitely good, showing early that he was great. But the scoring issue, the issue for him is that his guys are giving up way too many chances, right? Let's go to the Zach Whitecloud goal, right? Where the Florida Panthers are driving all over, cycle in the offensive zone. Shot, recycle, keep the puck in the zone, right? Vegas finally turns around, goes down the ice. Good defensive play by his team to stop the backdoor goal there. But then the Golden Knights get it up to the point to Zach Whitecloud, who simply just gets it and then shoots it at the far side of the net. And Bobrovsky, he can't make that slide all the way over to make that save, right? For one, he can't see it, and two, it's just he can't see it. That's just the bare minimum of it all. Florida, after doing all of that amazing offensive play and unable to score, they just immediately give up a bad opportunity to the other team, who all he has to do, and this is what good hockey teams do and how they score sometimes, just throw it at the net and things will go in. And Vegas did that a lot tonight. Going to to Mark Stone goal, right in the middle, another. Now, this is an interesting call I'll talk about too, but regardless of anything of it, the Panthers player, was it Kachuk? I don't remember. But the player just tries to throw it out of the zone, but up the middle of the ice. Not up the boards, not in any particular way, just flipping it through the middle of the ice where Mark Stone, all these professionals, could have been any of them, but Mark Stone's the one who's there, knocks it out of the air, and with no hesitation, no thought at all, just throws it in the back of the net, and Bobrovsky's got no time to adjust and get ready for the shot. It's because he's standing here and he's okay, flipping it out. Oh, he's got it. Oh, there's no time to adjust and be okay, he's going to go glove, he's going to go high, low. There's no way for him to know what he's going to do in that amount of time. And Stone, being a smart guy, just gets it and not letting Bob adjust to the play, just throws it in the back of the net. And that was what Florida's biggest issue was tonight. All the goals for Vegas was just Florida just being, I don't want to say lazy, but just not being in the game, just being exhausted and panicky, and that's what Vegas does really good. They do really good. That was the reason why Seattle beat the Avalanche, is by forcing the other team to make mistakes, and that was what was genius. What's genius about what they've done to all the teams that they've played so far in the playoffs is that they're so good at. They're not like the Avalanche, where they can run around and just cycle onslaught, shove the puck down your throat type of play. But they're really good at causing the other team to make pushing the other team to make a play. They have very good forecheck, and I don't even know if forecheck's the right word, but they just make the other team they just cause them to make mistakes. And for Florida tonight, they fell in that trap a lot, just making them make a bad move, a bad play that leads to a goal, right? And that's what they did all night long. Vegas playing just a good game. Adin Hill with the amazing save, which I gotta say, I like what the guys on the intermission said. Gretzky, I think he's the one that actually said it, and he said like guys like Ovechkin, guys like Crosby, when Nick Cousins gets that puck on his stick, he can't just. He was just a tic-tac-toe, right? And he said, I really liked what Gretzky said. He said that guys like Crosby and Ovechkin will pop that thing in the back of the net with some force and momentum and go top shelf with it, right? Instead, Cousins is just like, oh, here comes, doop, and it doesn't go in the back of the net, because of course it's not gonna. He got nothing into it. Hill, amazing save by Adin Hill. I mean, absolutely fantastic for him not to give up on the play. But at the same time, Nick Cousins, for one, he taps it in, right? He taps it, but then he starts skating away like he's already scored. What he really should have done, and I know any of us watching that knows, is he should have tapped it and then stayed on the puck, right? And he tapped it, went away, and he was like, uh-oh, and then Pietrangelo was able to poke it away. Instead, he should have, well, for one, have a better shot than the little touch that he had. But then if he sees it went off his stick, just go, oh, and crash the net even more. Keep the momentum towards the net, and that screwed him up, right? They should have had that goal. Hill with an amazing save, but really it was Nick Cousins' fault of not being able to put that in. And let's talk about Nick Cousins and the refereeing, because tonight he got sent, well, a couple nights ago, he got sent to the penalty box, and I don't think he should have, right? Because the reffing in this game was not the reason that Florida lost. Actually, the goal that Nick Cousins, the penalty that Nick Cousins drew for himself, they scored a shorthanded goal on, which I gotta say, bad goaltending there by Adin Hill and the Vegas Golden Knights. And that's kind of one thing I worry about with them, is Vegas looks a little passive sometimes, giving up those times where, like the beginning of the second period, and I think the third period too, where like Bennett, Cousins, and Kachuk would just skate on through, just pass, almost goal, right? They did that a couple times in this game, where Vegas just kind of looks they were very passive, not pressuring the puck like they're really good at, and just skating backwards like, oh, there it is, like they do that a couple times a lot, and they also make a couple bad mistakes in this game that a team like Florida, you cannot give up those two. And fortunately for them tonight, Florida was not on their A game and were not able to punish the Golden Knights for those couple mistakes. But the refereeing in this game, so the Nick Cousins penalty, I get that it was for roughing, but all he did was push Adin Hill like that, and that's a roughing. What about what happens afterwards, where there's four guys, including the goaltender, on top of him? Right? I don't understand how doing that is worse than guys all over him, right? And, punching him in the back of the head. I don't understand how that is not a penalty more than doing that. So, I don't know about that one. But then, later on in the game, the Mark Stone goal. I gotta say, let's all do an experiment at home with me right here, if you've made it to this far in the video. Okay. Now, let's take a little experiment. So, the whole thing is Mark Stone is above his normal shoulder height, and he was leaning over, okay? Now, let's all do an experiment. Here's our shoulder level. Stand up with me now. Here's our shoulder level. Now, let's all tilt one way. Would you not say that this shoulder is either higher or at the same level as when you're normal height on the higher shoulder? Mark Stone's higher shoulder is literally, his stick is above that point. So, I don't understand, because any way you look at it, either if it's the same level or higher than, stick is still higher than this point, okay? So, doesn't make any sense to me how that is a a good goal call, because there is proof. The evidence is right there. You can see his stick is like right here, and this is his shoulder, right? So, to me, doesn't make any sense. Does not make sense at all. And they were like, yeah, I guess there's a little bend to it too, but still, normal shoulder height. There's no way. That stick is at least a bare minimum of like, what, 2 to 3 inches higher than his shoulder. And I get if he's leaning a little bit, but to me, there's no chance that is obviously high sticking. It's not like they needed a goal to win. I think they were going to win regardless. That goal had nothing to do with Vegas winning the game, but the refereeing in this game was bad. Not a lot of penalties, but penalties to Florida that didn't make any sense, and call that goal to me was definitely no goal to me. No way. I mean, I don't think Vegas needed it to win, but just bad goal if that happens in the future. Because could you imagine if that was the overtime goal, right? Let's say instead somehow Florida tied at 3-3 and that was the 4th goal that won it in overtime. That would be a huge deal, right? But I think Vegas would have won this one regardless of that goal. And overall for Vegas, I like their game. They just can't give up anything. They can't let the Cats, because the Cats will eventually get into their A game. And when that happens, Vegas cannot go into that Dallas mode where they start just playing really bad for some reason, or any sort of bad at all. Because this Florida team, it is the deadliest team in this whole playoffs. And for Vegas, to me, should have this series on lock. They should win this one, as long as they don't do those really bad games that they have had in this playoffs, and especially certain games. I would say those 3 games against Dallas in game 3 to 5 were horrible. Against Edmonton, I feel like they could have played better against Edmonton as a whole. And then in game 1 against the Jets, right? I mean, that was a long time ago, but that was horrible, okay? Vegas has had a rhythm of being not the greatest, but can be the best. And against Florida, they have to bring the best, because we know who Florida can beat. So Vegas going forward, they just got to shut down their game, just keep it tight, keep it what they can do, play the way they can play, and don't shut things down. And for Florida, they got to find just shake off the rust. Eddie, fire him from the next broadcast. I don't want to hear him anymore. That one thing where Montour hit the post with his 100-mile-per-hour shot or whatever, and Eddie, was he watching the same game? Because he literally said, watch this Florida bench. They all jump up thinking it was a goal, and then they cut to him, and all the players are standing when it hits the post. They are all still standing, and only one guy, I think it was Duclair, was like, oh. Like, that was it. There was no one jumping up or anything. So, Eddie, I usually like Eddie, but he seems to be losing his mind. So, fire him, and that's all I got to say. Vegas should win this series, but I don't know. They've had issues just being consistent, and Florida can definitely beat good teams. So, that's all I got to say. And until next time, please, I'm begging you, pick up your free subscription. Too sweet. Have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.